This is about defending democracy. This is no longer Democrats versus Republicans. What do you want your kids to believe in? There must be give and take.
This is White Flag with Joe Walsh.
Hey, Joe Walsh here, former Congressman Joe Walsh here, White Flag with Joe Walsh. Just a quick hit. I wanted to do a quick episode, a quick conversation with you about last night's debate. Who won, who lost, does it matter, what matters? What matters in life? Look, the debate, last night's debate. Let me just cut right away to the horse race. Everybody loves, right, the winners and losers. Who won the debate? Who won the night? A 2-hour slugfest, a 2-hour, 8 people up on a stage, going at it for 2 hours. Who won, who lost? It's kind of like what everybody wants to know. Let me swat right away for you what I think is unimportant, and let me get that out of the way right away. The names, who won, who lost. Vivek Ramaswamy. Well, I'm going to hold off on him. Governor Doug Burgum, Asa Hutchinson, good men weren't even up there. Chris Christie has no shot to become the nominee. His only reason for being up there was going after Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis. Did neither. Christie had a bad night. Tim Scott, friend, got elected with him. I like Tim Scott. He wasn't there. He had a bad night. He just wasn't there. He didn't speak enough. He wasn't on screen enough. He wasn't forceful enough. If you're going by I'm just doing straight winners and losers. Burgum Hutchinson lost. Nobody heard him. Chris Christie lost. He didn't go after Trump. He didn't go after, and remind me to get to Christie in a second. He didn't go after DeSantis. Tim Scott lost. He hardly spoke. Then you get to Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, Ron DeSantis, and Mike Pence. In my mind, Mike Pence won. Mike Pence had a good night. I'd say he's a winner. He was aggressive. He was forceful. He stuck to his principles. I'm not speaking about these men or women. I'm speaking to how I think they did last night. Mike Pence came into that debate, barely made the debate. People had few expectations for him, and in many ways, he dominated the debate. He was aggressive. He was forceful. He was obnoxious. A number of the questions revolved around him. He had a good night. He presented who he was in a compelling, forceful way. Nikki Haley, not a huge fan, I am not, of Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley had a good night. She stood out. You're a winner if you stood out. Nikki Haley stood out. She was able to present a compelling vision of who she is and why she wants to be president, and she went after some of her opponents up on that stage. Nikki Haley had a good night. Ron DeSantis, I think he's a loser. I kind of disappeared up there. Nobody went after him. I find that interesting and significant, right? Nobody went after Ron DeSantis. Everybody thought Ron DeSantis is the guy everybody's going to go after. They didn't. People ignored DeSantis. That's telling. DeSantis, so much of what's difficult about this kind of a discussion is so many of us, so many of you really don't understand like the Republican base. So like we've got, MSNBC commentators and CNN commentators talking about who won, who lost. Well, they're not voting in the Republican primary. And I'll get to that when I talk about Vivek Ramaswamy in a minute. DeSantis, to me, didn't engage, didn't speak enough. For periods of that debate, he disappeared. The answers he gave are angry. They're just all canned, prepared responses. He ignored basic questions. I think DeSantis had a bad debate. I call him a loser. Vivek Ramaswamy, I'm going to call a loser. He dominated the debate because everybody went after him. I will acknowledge that he could be a winner because a lot of the Republican Party base probably likes what he had to say. To me, he came across as a totally green, inexperienced, unsubstantive opportunist, just a fake and a fraud, a young, uninformed punk who is just saying what he thinks people want to hear, and he wants Donald Trump to love him. So I'm going to call Ramaswamy a loser, though I will. There's an asterisk there. He could be a winner because everything I just said about him, a fraud, ignorant, no substance, angry, intolerant, that may be exactly what the Republican Party base wants. But there's your quick morning after hit on winners and losers. The only winners if you're just looking at straight winners, losers, the only winners, losers I identified would be Pence and Haley. Again, no comment on them as candidates overall and who they are. I'm just talking about last night. But the biggest winner is Donald Trump because everybody up on stage looked like the second team compared to Donald Trump. Donald Trump went into that debate the overwhelming favorite, way up in the polls. I think the debate will end and he'll be way, way, way up in the polls, probably even further up in the polls. Nikki Haley may get a bounce. DeSantis may get a bounce down. Ramaswamy will probably still stay up there. But the bottom line is Donald Trump is still way, way out in front. Before I went to bed last night, I said my overall thoughts are that Trump's got to be smiling. And I'm sure Donald Trump was smiling based on what happened last night. He's got these B-teamers all arguing with each other. Nobody's really taking shots at him. Ramaswamy defends him. Christie didn't really do anything. Trump's got to feel good. My other thought was that what this Republican Party, my former political party, has metastasized into has got to be defeated. It's an ugly mess. There were embers of, like Nikki Haley and a little bit of Tim Scott and some of Mike Pence trying to talk to a principled conservative party. There were embers of that. But the vast majority of it was, from almost everybody, what this new Republican Party has become, this Trumpist party. A nationalist party, an ugly party, an authoritarian embracing party. It's what the base wants. My other thought after watching the debate last night was before I go to sleep, I gotta watch some heartwarming dog videos because the whole debate kind of to me sucked. I thought the moderators let things get way, way too out of control. How about we have a debate without a live audience? How about that? How about we have a debate without a live audience? The applause, the yelling, the cheering, the jeering, the booing, all of that. It was a 2-hour debate. All of that probably took up 45 minutes. There was one big moment that stood out to me that says a lot. And this goes to how poorly Fox News handled the debate. But the one question about Trump was, Bret Baier asked every candidate, if Donald Trump is convicted and he's still the nominee, will you support him? I.e., will you support a convicted Donald Trump? Please raise your hands. This is telling. Immediately, Doug Burgum's, Tim Scott's, Nikki Haley's, Vivek Ramaswamy's hands went up. Immediately, yes. they will support a convicted Donald Trump if he's the nominee. Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, right away their hands went up. Mike Pence, pretty quickly, his hand went up. But I want to talk about two people right now because I think it's so fucking significant. So, Trump is convicted of a crime, of one of these crimes, or a number of these crimes, and he's the nominee. Will you support him? Would you still support him? Raise your hand. Listen to what I'm saying. Without even thinking, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley, and Mike Pence raised their hands. Also, Doug Burgum did. Two people. Ron DeSantis. As Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, Doug Burgum, and Mike Pence raised their hands to say, yes, I will support a convicted Donald Trump. You know what DeSantis did? DeSantis looked around. He immediately looked around. He looked to his left and he looked to his right to see who's raising their hands. And then very meekly, DeSantis raised his hand. It was so weak, so terrible. To me, really significant. And look, you know where I am on Trump, and Trump's unfit to be president, convicted or not. So you know, to me, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, Pence raising their hands, that's disqualifying to me. But I respect the fact that they raised their hands right away. It's what they believe, for whatever reason. DeSantis didn't even have the guts to do that. DeSantis had to look around to see who else raised their hand first. And it was just pathetic looking. That's not leadership. It was an incredibly weak moment. The Trump team jumped on it right away last night. I think everybody should jump right on it right away as well. And I think it's going to just help facilitate, to me, DeSantis's bottoming out in this race. But the other guy is Chris Christie. Tough guy Chris Christie. Big, tough, anti-Trump critic Chris Christie. I will die on this hill. I will stand on this hill. Chris Christie raised his hand as well. And it was stunning, and it was shocking, and he didn't raise his hand immediately. He kind of looked around a little bit like DeSantis did, but then his hand was the last one to go up, and he raised it about halfway up. He raised his hand, Chris Christie did, to say that he would support Trump if Trump were convicted. He would even support Trump if Trump were convicted, which is surprising because Christie's been all over the map on that he's anti-Trump and he won't support Trump. Sometimes he says he will, but it was surprising. Now, I said that in full disclosure, a lot of people said Christie didn't raise his hand. He did. He clearly raised his hand. A lot of people defended Christie by saying he was just raising his hand to make a point. He had a question and that he kind of tried to take it back and that he kind of tried to wag his finger and say, no, no, no. I don't buy any of that. Christie's going to have to come out and say some of that. I've watched the thing 13 times. Tough guy Chris Christie meekly raised his hand as well. Asa Hutchinson was the only candidate on stage who said no, did not raise his hand, and will not support Trump if Trump's convicted. Look, it's Trump's nomination, period. Nobody up on that stage made the case to this Trumpy party that they're on the same level as Trump. It's Trump's nomination. Barring a heart attack or a jail cell, Donald Trump is going to be the nominee. Donald Trump's legal battles are going to dominate this campaign. Donald Trump's going to have a mug shot taken today. That mug shot, nobody's going to be talking about the debate last night. Everybody's going to be talking about the mug shot today. This is his party. And people talking about Nikki Haley and Mike Pence having a good night. Well, okay, and even I said on the debate stage they had a good night. Nikki Haley and Mike Pence made clear they will support Trump if Trump's convicted. This is Trump's party. No candidate up on that stage last night was trying to beat Trump. They're all hoping and praying that Trump has a heart attack. They are. They're hoping and praying that Trump has a heart attack or Trump ends up in jail. They are. Especially Mike Pence. He's a praying man. You know he's praying for that. And if that happens, they want to be the one that people turn to. And that's what last night's debate was all about. Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, maybe improved their positioning if Trump has a heart attack or ends up in a jail cell. Vivek Ramaswamy may be a mini-me Trump. I don't think DeSantis helped himself. So that's it. Hey, that's my quick take on the debate. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to White Flag with Joe Walsh. Have a great rest of your week. We've got changes coming up with this podcast, White Flag with Joe Walsh. Changes that I think you will like. God bless you.
Thank you for listening. Remember to listen, share, and follow White Flag with Joe Walsh on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere great podcasts are found. And be sure to leave a 5-star review. This has been White Flag with Joe Walsh.